Chapter 37 War the three of you Donald asks yes. We fit the prophecy perfectly already Eliza says. How well do you meet the requirements he asks. I would be the great hero obviously I say. Regretfully. I am the one who loves the great hero the most. And says I am going to betray the great evil. Eliza says. The old man pauses and thinks for a few seconds. What makes you able to betray the great evil? Eliza freezes slightly. Out with it he says. He's my dad she says hesitantly. Wow. So this is teenage rebellion. I guess I never got the chance to rebel against any parents when I was Janet. That sure helps Gabriel says. Do you know where his main base is? Yes. It's our house. Who makes their base their house? I ask. Eliza just looks at me. Oh yeah we did. At least we know where he is. Now the question is when will he attack? The king says at that moment. Someone breaks through the door. Urgent message from Lady Kate of Clemaine. They are being attacked by the demon army. Wow, talk about timing. Didn't she say she didn't prepare at all? I ask without any emotion. You all need to assist the man-beast kingdom. Donald says. We will crush the enemy and save the continents. Gabriel says yes sure whatever let's go I say. Before you go, can I have some of those crystals you spoke of? Donald asks. I completely forgot about those. I pull out one of each color. What do they even do? You have a kingdom to save off with you. I'll ask someone else. I hop off the table and start walking out. We must hurry Gabriel says. Which direction is their kingdom if I had to guess? It'd take us only a few minutes to arrive. The man-beast continent is the southern continent. The kingdom should be somewhere in the middle of it. A general area that's very helpful. I say sarcastically. Once outside I grow to full side and make another stairway for the 5 riders. This time Gabriel is the first to get on. Followed by the 3 girls then Paulcia. I say to the old man as I use more air magic for passenger protection. I take flight and head south. After about 12 minutes I spot a large black wave almost in a straight line heading straight for the kingdom in front of it. Is that the demons? Why are they all so dark? Eliza says they are black because they live underground or in caves. And says. Eliza keeps trying to use the bracelet to use telepathy, but is failing miserably. Fail later. We're landing at the front of all of them. Eliza and Gabriel hop off when I land. The rest of you stay on my back for your protection. You might struggle with how much power you have. Everyone agrees and says once I reach them. They are already banging desperately on the walls of the rectangular kingdom of Clemaine. Hold on. I say as I dive down to the ground in front of the wall, crushing some of the demons. I let down the air magic and everyone does as told. I start spinning in circles, letting my body take care of the demons surrounding me. One jumps on my tail as I'm swinging and climbs towards my back. It promptly gets held in air by and careful. They don't want to make friends, Paul says. Another demon manages to jump at my head before I make it burst into flames. As we fight the demons I look around at them. They all look the exact same. They run on all 4s and aren't wearing anything. None have hair, but their skin is pitch black and they have bloodshot eyes. They show their teeth which seem to have been sharpened by tools or something of the sort. After a few minutes of preventing them from getting to or through the wall. It gets repetitive. This is terribly uneventful. At least the army isn't smart enough to spread across the entire wall. Diana says. I suddenly feel something new on the top of my back and a new voice says something. Hey, they're getting bored. Are you? Who is that? I ask. Recognizing the voice somewhat but still focused on not letting the demons too close. It's Lady Kate and says Queen. What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be inside? Where it's safe I ask. Oh Miss J, safety is overrated. She says. Now I have to deal with keeping 4 people safe. I need to think of a faster way to get rid of these things. Plus it seemed like you needed a break. Actually we just needed incentive I say. Remembering a certain thought about trying to fit the whole world inside space magic. Gabriel Eliza. Stand back, I want to try something and you shouldn't accidentally get sucked up. I tell them. Once everyone is clear I make a portal using space magic to try and store all the demons there. It doesn't work, Jess. Living things can't be put in a spatial area. They can only be transported. And says quickly as to not waste any time. Fine, I'll just open the other side of the portal really high in the air and hope they can't survive. I proceed to do so and I move the entrance through the army in a line. Heads up, I say bodies. Bodies are falling from the sky. It is all anyone can see. Well, that sure was effective, I say, proud of myself. That was terrifying, Diana says. Which part? The bodies, at least nothing went splat. Then it would be even worse. Realization hits her. Oh. She faints. If I could, I would definitely slap my face right about now. Chapter 38 Clumaine. So why are you outside the walls of the kingdom again? Lady Kate, I asked the pink-haired man-beast. With a closer look it's easy to tell she has black round ears and a sleek black tail. I was being forced under protection, so I snuck out. Then I heard and saw you guys fighting and wanted to join in. Unfortunately, you finished right as I arrived. She says, disappointed. All we did was kill these things. I say as I kick one of the demon bodies to see how far it goes. It gets launched pretty far. I didn't expect you to kill them all so fast. Did you want us to let some of them get inside the walls? She glares at me. Just fly us inside, get on. I tell Eliza and Gabriel as I make stairs for them to get aboard. We're to head for the middle of the kingdom, where the castle is. A few short moments later, we are sitting in another meeting room with a rectangular-shaped table. Everyone is seated and I am laying on the far end of the table across from Lady Kate. So how are you? She asks, staring at me with her tail flicking back and forth behind her. She has a slight smile on her face, bored, frustrated. Regretful, mostly the latter too, I reply lazily, not even lifting my head. Oh my, why is that? I can't just say, oh nothing. God is just being annoying. Personal reasons. Who are these 5 with you? One is a friend. One is my twin sister. And the other 3 call themselves the Hero Party. Interesting one question though. How is one of them your sister? It's complicated. Why don't we get someone to bring you something to eat? You must be famished after that big fight, she says. Immediately after, a dozen or so butler come inside the room with silver platters. I guess it is about a good time as any to eat lunch. Now that I think about it, I haven't eaten for 2 meals, but I'm not hungry at all. When the butlers put the food on the table, everyone digs in except for me and the queen. Why don't you eat? She asks. How about you? You didn't do any fighting, that is true. But it is always nice to let the guests pick their food first. Now you're not hungry, I say, and glances over at me with a worried expression. Probably wondering why I'm not hungry knowing how much I've eaten. Eventually everyone is finished consuming their sustenance. Kate starts up the conversation again. Any specific reason why you are all here? The only reason we came was because you were being attacked. Paul says, is that all, Prince? Now she seems like she is staring into his soul. She changed her sight to look at Eliza instead and switches between them. How'd you know? I ask. Man-beasts have an exceptional sense of smell and hearing. So you can smell their species precisely. You don't have to stare at us like we're evil or something. Eliza mutters. We had nothing to do with the attack on your city. Paul says so. I can use you as a ransom to stop them without spending any people. Kate remarks, you can't do that. Why not? I have her protection, he says, pointing at me. Says who? I say. He glares at me. I'm going home. I jump off the table and start leaving. I'm coming too, and says, jumping up and following. Eliza, wanna come? I ask. Well, I don't want to be here. She responds and gets up to follow as well. You 3 can find your own way back to your kingdom. Aren't you going to come with us to defeat the great evil? Gabriel asks. How about we take care of him and you just do whatever you want? I say as I leave the room. After a few minutes we end up in a courtyard. I become full size and make another set of stairs. Before I can take off, the hero party comes running towards us. Hey, you can't just take the hero party role from us. Too late, sorry. I lift off the ground and head northeast. Cresselia is the eastern continent, right? I ask. Yes. And replies, good. I don't want to end up going to some undiscovered continent or island or something instead of going where we need to. After another few minutes, I come to a lone mountain. Is this the right place? Yes. I hear faint Eliza say. Do you still have that bracelet? They never took it from us, and says. The mountain is tall but is hard to compare to anything else around. The area surrounding the mountain is desert and the top of the mountain has snow. Where's your father's house? The second highest floor, she says, and says. Where's the entrance? The only entrance is at the bottom of the mountain. Of course, how many floors are there? 98. Did they design this like a dungeon or something? For many years this mountain was the first level 10 dungeon. One person conquered the dungeon and became the first demon. With the power of the dungeon, he made the demon race great. So now we basically have to do a level 10 dungeon with 98 floors. At least there probably won't be as many monsters to kill. I circle around the mountain until I spot the entrance. It looks just like a cave entrance. It's just really big. When we land, I help the two of them off and we walk inside. The first thing we see is the same monsters that attacked Clemaine. There are 8 of them as well as 2 that have red stripes on their backs. This is just like the dungeon we did before. Fantastic chapter 39 more. As we walk up to floor 66 of the Unwinds. How long have we been climbing the inside of this mountain? It seems like forever. The fact that this task is very repetitive is the most likely reason. I say it's been about 6.5 hours. Eliza responds, "How do you know?" and asks, "I used to live here, I have experience." I think that would be called an internal clock. If it's been that long, we should sleep, I suggest. What do we do about food? Eliza asks. Skip it. You'll live. What about you? Need to eat. You ate once yesterday, which wasn't even that much. And you haven't eaten at all today. I don't know about demons, but humans can go 3 weeks without any food and live. But I cut her off. We can talk about this later. Let's sleep for now. I proceed to make domes for the two to sleep in. I'll just stay awake and keep watch. Eliza immediately goes into her resting space and hesitantly does the same in her own individual dome. What is happening? I'm not hungry, I'm not thirsty. I'm barely even tired. Okay, maybe I'm slightly tired. I'll just lie down and relax for a while. Hey you. Someone says. I open my eyes to see him again. When did I fall asleep? Very quickly, actually. It was like you just ran out of life. He laughs. I notice he is doing something other than what he has before. Instead of sitting in the stool staring at me, he is making white clothes appear out of nothing, putting them into white suitcases. Why is everything white? Why not a gray at least? You're probably wondering why I'm doing this. He says that and more. I'm going on vacation. What do you mean vacation? It means I need a substitute for a while. You can't just go on vacation. I say, can't I? I'm God. I do what I want whenever I want to do it. Then who is your substitute, and are they better than you? On second thought, I should ask. How much better than you are they? They are probably the worst person for the job. To be honest, who is it? Someone I'm familiar with. Yes, you know them. It's you know. Yes, indeed it is. You need to understand my position. Why no? I can't say you actually have a choice. You're going to be God whether you want to or not. Why? The reason is because I said so. That doesn't matter anyway. What does is the fact that you get to use all my power. He gives me a smile. So what does that mean? It means you can basically do whatever you want in the world and nobody can do anything about it. How am I supposed to know how your power works? Just think and do. Come on. It's not that hard to understand. Why are you making me do this? Didn't you already ask that question? I thought I was supposed to have a peaceful life with a family. You will. Don't worry. How am I supposed to do that when I'll be in this horribly white room all the time? You won't be in this room. If you don't want to be here, you can just leave. He says, trying to reassure me. Looks like you should go. You already have access to my power. Why don't you test it when you wake up? He shoves me back through the hole. Can you stop doing this, I say, before I go very far? I won't have to anymore. See you in a few millennia. Did he just say millennia? He expects me to be here for thousands of years. At least I don't have to see or talk to him for that long. I wake up in the same spot I was before. The only difference is Anne is hugging my snout. What are you doing this for? I ask. You were sleeping. But you were glowing, she says, very worried. Like I was using magic. We have no idea what it was. Eliza says, I'm fine, don't worry too much, I say. Trying to reassure Anne. Let's finish getting to the top, shall we? Is there no way to speed this process up or at least make it more interesting? And asks, not unless you can control dungeons, no. Eliza answers, I could definitely try helping us get there faster. I do as instructed and imagine a hole in each floor directly above us, as well as all the monsters gone. I look up to see a hole past that is the next floor. With another hole. What was that? Eliza asks suspiciously. What I ask? You were a rainbow for a second. What did you do? I look up. Did you do that? I'll explain later. Probably. I set everything up to allow them to hop on my back. Let's just take the easy way and skip everything. Yes, sure, she says, still suspicious. She still gets on what? No normal person can influence dungeons in any way. It's never been done before. I'm not exactly a normal person. People have been able to use all types of magic before. The fact that you began as a human and became a dragon is a first. But it's not uncommon for dragons to be among the other races. She says we should go, I say, trying to avoid the conversation. You're going to give us the information we want soon, whether you want to or not. I don't say anything and take off from the ground through the hole that I formed. Definitely glad I made it bog enough. A few moments after I start, I run out of holes. I think we're here. Is this it, Eliza? Yeah. This is definitely the right place, she responds. Eliza, have you come to accept your position? A voice asks. No, Dad, she says. What position? I ask. He wants me to be the queen of the world. Chapter 40, Great Evil. Why would you pass up an opportunity to become queen of the world? I ask. It seemed like too much work, Eliza responded. What did? The way you were going to take over the world, or being queen and handling all 4 continents with little help. Yes, I just stare at her, then I look at her father. He looks very similar to Eliza, but with black hair instead of orange. He also isn't hiding his demonic features. He has a long, black pair of curving horns on his head and a black tail that is as long as his spine. The end of the tail and horns look like knives that could cut a rock with ease. What would you have done if you took everything and she didn't become queen? I'd just force her into it, he says. Why wouldn't you make yourself king? Because He pauses and starts yelling. This doesn't concern you. The 2 of you will be killed for coming here anyway. So you're going to kill my only friends and expect me not to intervene? Eliza asks. I will make you leave first. Then I will dispose of the girl. Dragons are very rare and can also be very helpful, so I will enslave it. No. You're going to stop trying to take everything over and receive punishment from the king of the demons. He laughs at the statement. The king is dead. I killed him and took over the demons. What about the civilians? Ignoring the previous statement of the person in front of us, and asks a fairly important question. I killed them too, he smiles. At least he hasn't killed any of the other races yet. I say, how could you say that? And asks. Eliza has lost everyone she ever knew and loved. What about me? The man says. I never had any friends or anyone that I loved here anyway. That's why I left, Eliza says coldly. Immediately after she spoke. Nearing instant speeds, he comes up to Eliza and shoves his hand on her throat and picks her up by the neck. You troublesome child, if you won't love me, I'll have to just make you love me or dispose of you as well. Isn't killing her against the whole reason you're taking over everything? And starts to run at him to try to save Eliza, but is stopped in her tracks by earth magic that covers her feet and slowly rises up her body. Eliza struggles to breath as she claws at his arms, trying to release herself. Instead of running towards him, I use fire magic. I throw it at him like a flamethrower, he screams, mostly in shock, and lets go of Eliza, while he is slightly distracted. I undo the magic done to Anne. Which one of you did that? He asks. Did what I ask? It was you. He glares at me. If you already knew, why would you ask? He uses lightning magic at me and I move out of the way. What are you doing that for? You're supposed to die. You don't have the power to kill me and probably never will. What kind of dragon are you? He asks. The best one. We'll see about that, Eliza, before I fight him. What magic can your father use? I ask. He can use the same magic as Gabriel, she says. Really? I expected he would at least be able to use 1 or 2 of the magic types. Maybe the actual hero party would have been able to do this instead. Well, this seems like a great big waste of time. I say. I should have backed out of all of this when I had the chance. I am the great evil. How dare you belittle me? Well, it's not really false, Eliza says. She could beat you instantly. If you think she is so powerful, I'll just deal with her first, he says, before anything else happens. I ask Eliza one last question. Do I have permission to get rid of him forever? I thought that was the original plan, was it not? She asks. I just wanted to make sure you are still okay with it. I turn my full attention back to her father. Should we make this fast? Or should we make this slow? This will be over very soon, you egotistical rat. Did you seriously just call me a rat? This entire time? I've been the full-size dragon that I woke up as 5 days ago. Yes, I did well then. Why don't I try out my newfound power? What should I do first? Let's try erasing him from existence. I focus on thinking about doing that and nothing happens. Okay, let's try just killing him. I focus on the thought of his arms, legs and head separating from his body and the life leaving him. This time it works. So much for the powerful great evil. We all watch as Eliza's father becomes a dismembered corpse. I look at the others to see, and with a look of horror plastered all over her face, and see Eliza with disbelief written on her. Not wanting to be this size any longer. I revert back to my 8-year-old self. What was that? Eliza asks first. Remember how you said I'm not normal? Yeah. I'm basically an all-powerful being. I continue a little quieter. I'm also kind of the new god of this place. They obviously heard me because Eliza doesn't say or do anything and changes expressions from horror to admiration. That's so cool. What else can you do? She asks. I don't know. I only got the rest of this power last night. Wait. If you received this last night, did you leave the dungeon and come back? Eliza asks suspiciously. No. The last god gave it to me in a dream. You're saying you spoke to the previous god. How long has that been going on? Since I was born. Chapter 41 Power. You've been speaking to God since you were born? Eliza asks very skeptically. Most definitely. And a little before as well. I say, why? She just stares at me in incredulousness. Should I tell the truth, some of the truth, lie? Or change the subject of the conversation? Let's say the latter too. I don't know, but at least the continents are safe for now. I say with the best grin I can make. When neither of them say or do anything, I slowly allow my fake grin to recede. Let's just leave. I suggest. If you're all-powerful, prove it. Eliza says. I don't think I need to after what I just did to your dad, but sure, why not? After a slight pause I continue. There's only one problem. I don't know what I could do. Allow and to use more magic types, she suggests. I guess I could probably do that. I'll attempt to again use my power. I close my eyes and think of Anne. Individually using each type of magic, she isn't able to at the current moment with a fair amount of skill involved, so she will actually be able to do something. After taking quite a number of moments going through them all, I open my eyes to see if anything happened. The two of them are still staring at me. Well, what are you waiting for? Try it out. How was I supposed to know? You just closed your eyes, stood there and opened them again, and says slightly dejectedly, just try. Eliza insists, and complies to both of our requests and starts with the common magic types. She begins with making a fireball in front of herself. Her face immediately brightens. It worked. Please continue. Eliza tries to keep her on track. Sorry, this is just so exciting. And continues to make more balls of separate types of magic at once. 8 balls of magic, corresponding to the common and rare types, have been made. She gets rid of them and tries to make a portal out of space magic. When she succeeds, she steps through. Eliza and I follow close behind her. After walking through, we are back at our home headquarters, continuing to remove the magic. She teleports to the front door of the building. I'll take a wild guess she just used time magic. I can't imagine the horrendous things bad people could do with that magic. And enters through the front door and walks away. Eliza starts following her while I look at the previous wreckage of the house. Nothing has changed since the last time we've been here. I could probably do something about this. After imagining the building rebuilding itself back into its former self, I watch as the first few pieces of debris get set in place. Following the other two, I also decide to go inside. Before I manage to reach the door, it gets opened for me. Welcome, Miss Jessica, a butler says as he holds it wide. Haven't seen any of you in quite a while. Nor have I had anything done for me, thank you. I respond, and the butler bows to me. It is my job. The rest are in the dining room. Without any other words, I walk towards the dining room. The house seems a lot smaller than it once did. Probably because we've been wandering around in wide open spaces. Upon reaching the dining room, I see everyone is eating breakfast quietly. I guess it's the right time of day since we woke up and went straight to the top floor. Everyone is in their normal seats, so I walk over and hop into mine as well, which has a plate on it. I think I know why I haven't been hungry for a while. I take a bite, unsure of whether I would be able to still digest it after my recent transcendence into God. After chewing and swallowing, nothing comes back up, so I decide to slowly finish the meal. I'm glad you finally ate something, my mother says. How did you know I haven't been eating, I ask, and has told us all about what has happened over the past few days. Is there anything you would be willing to tell us yourself? I'll just take that as her talking about the battle we had. We defeated the great evil. Is there anything else? Well, nothing else really major happened. I take a glance back at the other two to see deadpan faces. I roll my eyes and turn back to my parents. I also became God interesting. So these two didn't make that up, my father says. How do you know I wasn't lying? Well, if you think you need to prove yourself, by all means, make a miracle happen or something else incredible. Do you both want to be able to use all types of magic? No, thank you. They both say at almost the exact same moment. Well, I already fixed the house back to the way it was. I'm sure someone saw that happen. They decide it's their turn to stare at me. Why does everyone keep staring at me? I'm just God. That's all for all I know. I could be for the rest of time. Since I definitely do not trust the last God when he said he'd be back in a few thousand years. I continue. Wait, you spoke to the last one? My mother says, surprised. I already had a very similar conversation with these two. We'd been talking for years before he said he was going on vacation. Gods can go on vacation, obviously they couldn't. I probably would still be yelling at him. It isn't good to anger gods, Eliza says nonchalantly. I was the one that was angry at him. He just listened. Do you know what you're going to do while you wait for him to return? If he ever does and asks, I'm not quite sure. But it will definitely be a boring experience. I'll definitely be able to live since I don't seem to need any sort of nutrients to survive, and I definitely won't be aging. Maybe I'll just find a hole somewhere and force myself into hibernation for the foreseeable future. Epilogue. After trying to place myself into hibernation and unfortunately not succeeding, I decided to attempt at placing myself in whatever space that God summoned me to all those times. After 60 years of trying to access the place, albeit the many years of me screwing around with my abilities at different places in the world, I finally managed to get myself back in the blindingly white room. Then I immediately redecorated. First of all, I took away the blinding brightness and made most of it a dull gray. I made the ceiling an endless black instead of the endless white it was before. I also decided to make it look like a long and wide throne room or hallway kind of place. I made designed pillars periodically along the walls lining the edges to each end of the room. At one end of the room, I made a tall door just for decoration that made it seem like it almost reached a ceiling, being as tall as the pillars. Closer to the other end of the hall, I place a grand and pure white throne made of comfort. After succeeding at making the place look better and actually a livable space more or less, I tried to go back to the planet. Unfortunately, it didn't work. It never worked. I finally understood why that stupid god before me didn't fix everything on the planet himself. Time went by in the lonely, boring space. I made a clock to measure time, days, months, and years, just so I could have some sort of way of telling time. I would very often try to make any sort of contact with the world I grew to know, never having any real results. At some point, I decided on a whim to change my looks to the body I had back on Earth rather than in my permanently 8-year-old body. I originally had black hair that went to my shoulders and red eyes. This combination is the main reason people avoided me in my last life. Some said I even looked evil. But at least now I'm used to loneliness and won't go insane. Probably. I also decided to change my speech pattern back to where it was before I was born anew. Now, after 938 years, 10 months and 4 days of doing random things with my god powers, at 7:56 in the morning I have a visitor. She is fair-skinned with blue eyes and golden hair. Almost the exact opposite of what I currently look like. The only problem is that she barged through the door, which shouldn't be possible since there is literally nothing behind it. How did you do that? I ask her. I am a goddess. You shall give me respect, she decides. Sorry, but I'm also a goddess, so you are a goddess no longer. You are a plague to this world. Before I could ask her what she meant by that, she quickly starts destroying the place. She crumbles many of the pillars and tears apart the throne. She even grows vines in some places, just to make it look like the destruction had happened long ago. Honestly, it doesn't look too bad, so I thought I might keep it. Maybe add some extra things to look at. I will now take control of this planet. You shall not stand in my way, she says. Good luck with that. I reply, knowing that it had been almost 3 millennia and I'd still had nothing to show for it. Then she leaves the same way she came in. I quickly make a small tracker along with a mini camera and microphone and throw them at her. Wherever she goes and whatever she does, I'll know. Hopefully it's not much. I place a big television screen behind the newly broken throne and switch it on. Did it work? All that is on the screen is darkness, but as I stare at it, I can see particles of some kind floating along, almost like the void. All of a sudden, a room shows up. It came out of nowhere. It looks like the same room I had made, but back to the white everything. Then different beings start existing in the room. Everybody present besides the goddess looks like an angel of some sort. I could tell because they looked like they were glowing at first, but that effect faded. They didn't have wings or anything, but they are all human. The thing about that was the fact that they were all human. There were no elves, no man-beasts. And of course, no demons. I started to worry about what would happen to the planet. I want all of you to spread my name across the land and make sure those non-humans stay out of the perfection of humankind. The goddess gave orders to the angels, and they quickly followed her directions after leaving through the door in that room. I don't know how I never thought to make beings to do stuff for me. I hadn't even bothered checking to see if I could actually open the door. Before I can check for the first time, the goddess on the screen starts glowing. After a few minutes of her glowing, I decide to walk to the door in my room and open it. All I see is the void weird. Waiting for the goddess to stop, I feel something in the existence of the world change, but can't quite figure out what. After the goddess stops glowing, one of the angels comes back to the room and kneels. I have integrated your name into the local religion, and they wish to summon heroes to vanquish the non-humans. The angel says allow them to do so. Make sure to oversee the summoning and guides those being summoned. The goddess replies. The angel nods and leaves the room to supposedly summon some heroes. Honestly, what happened to the planet while I was away, or was it all because of that goddess? I have an idea. I'll just take one of the heroes for myself and protect everyone. I just have to hope one of them becomes isolated.